series called Thatsophisticated podcast with myself, the host, That Sophisticated Guy, and of course my friend Joe from Phenomenal Gaming.
Yeah,
so introduce yourself, Joe. What's your channel about?
Okay, so man's channel is a gaming channel, a bit like this guy's. Less sophisticated, less giving. Oh my god, there's a spider. Less like. Actually, I just do a lot of stuff. Are you getting rid of bricks? What are you doing?
I'm fixing up your house. I'm making it better. Anyway.
Don't fix up my house.
So for the purpose of this video.
Unscripted and unedited, sir.
Yeah. Very much so.
Don't fix up my house, you idiot. What are you doing?
Placing a window. So yeah. Today's podcast is going to be all about upcoming games, e.g. Battlefront 2, which I am very excited for, I have to say.
Battlefront 2. The time where the Ultimate Edition of the original Battlefront is £7.99, it really takes away all the excitement I had for the future game. But
I mean, you have you even played it, Joe? I mean,
no, I haven't, but it's not the point.
Yeah.
The point at hand is that the new game, obviously, I'm expecting it to be a lot better, you know. But when the original Battlefront, the Ultimate Edition, is £8,
yeah.
You know, it's kind of insulting to the game, I imagine.
I mean, I've seen the gameplay footage and that looks pretty good. What little we have. There's not much, really, to be fair, but yeah, I believe yeah, you can't have everything, obviously. There's got to be some secrecy about it, I suppose. But otherwise, looks like a good title to me. I played the one by EA, the one that came in 2015, and to be honest, that's all I've got to say, really.
I mean, to be honest, I did consider buying it. I've considered buying it multiple times, like when the Ultimate Edition's been on offer, and then the Deluxe Edition, even normal when it was like a £5. I thought about buying it all them times, and still considered it now. But with the new one like just round the corner, there's no point in getting the old one, no matter how cheap it actually is.
Yeah, I'm afraid you're a bit right there, to be honest. I mean, I didn't like the fact that the one from 2015 just ignored the fact that the prequel trilogy was a thing, and I know that a lot of Star Wars fans kind of ignore that it was a thing.
I was just going to say the prequel trilogy. It's something that should not be mentioned. I actually didn't mind the prequel trilogy. Maybe it's because I grew up with not knowing that everyone else thought it was bad. I think it's not that it's bad. It's just you go from the
the
original trilogy, yeah, to the prequels, and it's just a strange thing to do.
I mean, he tried his best, I suppose. Essentially, I guess what happened is that it was just made at the complete wrong sort of time.
Yeah.
And it wasn't managed very well. I believe that the second one is considered like the worst, but actually Phantom Menace wasn't. It wasn't that bad in my opinion, apart from Jar Jar Binks. That's it. That's the only thing that was really bad about it. But so yeah, Battlefront 2 is supposed to include the original trilogy and the Force Awakens trilogy. I guess you can call it, like the new ones, yeah. And also the prequels. And I've got to say, I don't know how they're going to handle it, to be honest.
I mean, the main problem is you've got all these games coming out. You've got Battlefront, you've got the new COD, you've got World War II, you've got FIFA and stuff like all these games. And you look at it and you go, right, I'm going to buy this, but then you've got so many problems with that. You've got to be able to afford it, and then if you've got a PS4 or an Xbox and you've got low storage, you've got to be able to fit it on, and to release all of these games at the same time, and that's probably one of the biggest problems with companies now.
It is.
If they spread out releases across the year rather than releasing them all just before Christmas, which I understand why they do it. You know, obviously if it's coming up to Christmas, people are going to be like, oh yeah, right, I want this game. But it's just stupid. There's too many games that come out at the same time.
Yeah, there are a lot of choices really, and I think that the choices are very polarizing because if you think about it, a game could be like really bad, and you could have wasted all your money on it, and then a game which is better, one that you, well, didn't choose, it was kind of like your second option.
Yeah.
You just feel kind of ripped off, don't you?
I have that problem so often, I'll say so often, to be fair. It's happened a few times where I've bought a game, I've played it and thought, not a fan, and I've just wasted like 20 quid on the game.
Like, there are lots and lots of there's lots of different factors considering, you know, how games are actually made and how development runs, and sometimes it can all go wrong so fast.
Yeah.
And I think that's where a lot of companies don't realise that, you know, things can definitely go wrong, and a lot of fans are sort of disappointed when what they get is a little bit, like, for instance, I got Battlefront too little too late, to be honest, and in its state back then, I did not enjoy it whatsoever. I'm pretty sure in like the first 3 weeks people enjoyed it a lot, but
To be fair, it happens with every game.
it happens, yeah. Yeah, but with that game especially, like, the hype was so up there. I can remember seeing the original advertisements for it where they were announcing it, and I thought, are they gonna fuck it up? And it turns out that they kinda did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I suppose that when it comes down to it, with a game like that that's based on the franchise that it's based on, it's going to be really hard to be able to make a game that pleases everyone.
It is hard to find a game that pleases everyone, but, you know,
it's the same concept with like GTA. Now in GTA 5, for some people it might be an amazing game that you can play all the time. But for people like us, you know, it's just below standard compared to previous releases.
It becomes so apparent that it doesn't seem like they're trying anymore, and
yeah,
it feels like ever since, for example, ever since, well, if one company doesn't try a lot and then they get away with it, every other company thinks they can do the exact same thing, and I think that's why we get so many crappy attempts at making games nowadays. I think that's why it's so polarizing.
Yeah, I mean, as you say, you get the same problem with like most companies, and I think a lot of time they get complacent with the games. I mean, look at COD again, look at Activision with COD, and the entire game, it's the exact same every release.
COD sells, you know, like, COD, I think a friend of mine put it best. Basically, he buys it every single year, but he only buys it because it's COD. He doesn't buy it because he knows it's going to be good. Or
to be fair, mate, that was me that said that. But,
was that?
And I said people still buy it because it's COD. It's like FIFA. No matter how many times I complain about it and say it's shit, you know, say the servers are shit, the gameplay is shit, everything about it's shit, I'm still gonna buy it because it's FIFA. It's like a tradition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, GTA is a tradition with me.
If you're brought up doing a certain thing, you're probably going to carry on doing that. Not, you know, it's like I used to go to Butlins when I was a kid. I've grown up and I'd still want to go. Less so for the fact that I'm going, more so for the fact that it's just tradition. It's just something that I'm going to keep doing. You know what I mean?
Ah, it is. Well, very well said. It's the same thing with me in GTA, to be honest, because every time a new title comes out for GTA, I always get it, and I think it's because when I was younger, I had lots of the games, and I just pretty much played the hell out of them. And I mean,
I've got the. Oh, sorry, go on.
I grew to love them so much that I didn't think they could do no wrong, but considering how GTA 5 has turned into, it's become just not what it's supposed to be. In other words, I think they dropped the ball a bit with that one.
It feels like it's become more of a parody of what it could be.
It's trying to be something that they know they can't make it into.
Yeah.
Like cunning stunts, for example. I remember when I first saw that, and I remember telling you that I thought, oh god, they're
Yeah.
selling out a little bit here, because I don't know, it just felt like this isn't what GTA is supposed to be.
Yeah.
And I know they were probably parodying like racing games and stuff like that, and Rockstar's good at parodying stuff, but like they're not what they used to be. If I'm honest, they're not as good as they used to be.
I mean, you look at the early games. You look at like San Andreas and Vice City, Liberty City, and how everything about the game has evolved, but the storylines and the areas of the map, it seems to have regressed back to the early stages of the game.
Yeah, it seems like they're trying the hardest to make everything into an action movie now, especially with 5 story. Like everything's so OTT, but
Yeah.
with 4's it felt so down to earth and a lot more relatable. I think that's why 4 has a much better story than 5.
And to be fair, I mean, you say Falls were relatable. I can't say I relate to someone going to America and that, you know, being a criminal and having
Yeah,
a
I mean,
girlfriend that works at FIB. But you
I
know,
mean, it's a lot more.
if that relates to you, Cameron, that's your
No, it's a
your
lot
problem.
more
But
down to earth for what the franchise is. It tells
Yeah.
a proper story from, like, and you really get to know the characters. But in 5, it just feels like they're there, and they exist, and you gotta get used to them.
yeah, it's like I did find it though. Like when you get to the final mission in GTA 5,
Yeah,
personally, I found it quite difficult to actually play for the main reason, like. You could, personally, this was just me, you could kill off Trevor,
yeah,
but then, you know, when you switch to him, you don't get them fucking cutscenes where he's killing someone or threatening someone.
yeah.
You
I
could
mean,
kill off Michael, but he's got a family.
yeah.
And you could kill off Franklin, but there's just really no point.
Because
I mean, it gets you nowhere in the game.
you could never kill off Franklin though. Franklin wasn't even an option to kill, and I felt like Franklin was one
Oh
of the
yeah, of
most
course, I don't
useless.
know where I got that from, but...
He was one of the most useless characters in that game, I've got to say. It
Yeah.
just felt to me like they were just sticking
He had a
in...
dog that was literally the only interesting thing about him.
Yeah. And it felt to me like they just added the characters, the 3 characters, for the sake of being revolutionary, like for the sake of doing it. Not because they wanted to make it more interesting.
Exactly.
And the fact that the story was essentially the same, no matter who you played as, it didn't make any sense to me. I think it would better if they were told 3 different stories for like the 3 different characters, and I think that would have justified there being 3 characters.
Yeah.
You know, that's just...
I mean...
yeah, that's just me, go on.
People always bring up the concept of like having a female protagonist in GTA. But I mean, while it attracts, you know, the female like players, the female gamers and stuff like that, at the end of the day, would people want women to be portrayed in such a way it's like men? I'm not trying to sound sexist or that, but you look at stuff like that, you find a lot of murderers on the news and stuff like that, and criminals are male.
Yeah.
So would people feel like they're trying to portray women in such a negative light? Should it be the other way around, or would they feel as though, you know, no matter what they do in that sort of respect, they're gonna get shit on because it's such a, you know, difficult subject.
Yeah, it's... the thing is, I think the male... people who are actually male should be more upset that, you know, they're being portrayed in that way. But
Exactly,
they
but it's
don't
not
really
really that big
complain
of a deal
about it.
for them.
But
You know,
to be honest,
you get the point.
even if they didn't portray women in that way, even if they didn't put a female protagonist in, they'll still say, like, there's prostitutes who are, well, all female, and, like, I think in 4 there wasn't really any, like, good females, if you understand. Like, there wasn't...
I mean, the
any heroes.
closest to an impactful female role you actually had in that game was Michelle.
There was Kate,
that fell flat on its face, in all honesty.
Yeah, there was Kate as well, and yeah, it just seems like they're trying to avoid it, even though I think it's a
I mean,
major step.
oh yeah, there was
It, it is. They're just trying to avoid it, to be honest, and no matter what they do, like you say, they're going to get shit on for it. So
exactly. Because I mean, you're going to get people that turn around and say, "Oh, women don't belong in the game," then you're going to get women that say, "Oh, it paints us all in a bad light," and
it's a very complicated
Yeah.
subject,
it is.
to say the least.
So yeah, let's move on from the controversial topic of Grand Theft Auto 5.
Yeah. Save that for an entirely different one, shall we? Yeah.
Yeah. So, going back to COD now.
Yeah, COD.
Jesus Christ, let's not speak of the utter catastrophe that was Infinite Warfare.
I mean, it was a catastrophe before it even...
There's no I mean about it. It was just embarrassing. It was probably like, it was just bad.
To be fairly honest, I felt that the fact they packaged it with, what was it? Modern Warfare Remastered, I think that was just insulting to the fan base, because I thought...
It was a because they clearly knew themselves, like, we're going to be a shit release. Right, because they got the, obviously the C reactions, people are going to say, oh, it's shit. So that's a desperate attempt to sell copies.
I think they were trying to kill two birds with one stone with that, because to be honest, people say that the older CODs were best, but whenever they seem to remaster them or put them back, well, they've only done it like a few times, probably only once, but whenever they actually try to replicate them, they always do it wrong. And I think the fans just don't know what they want anymore. I think that's the main issue.
I mean, again, same can be said for like every game.
If you look at the if you look at the Sonic the Hedgehog franchise, you probably don't even know, because you don't. Well, you're not into those. But I've played a lot of them, and to be fair, especially with, I think it was Sonic Lost World, it was that title that was on the Wii U, and the thing is...
The forgotten console.
Yeah, the forgotten console, the one that nobody really cared about, but then again, Nintendo Switch, so that's the thing.
Well, Nintendo Switch is still a pretty hot thing, I mean, it's only been out a few months, to be fair, though.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, right, the franchise was at one point literally crumbling. I mean, not being funny, but Sonic 06 happened, and that was a very, very bad thing. A lot of fans turned their back on the franchise at that point, and Sega didn't really know what to do anymore. They just didn't know what to do to please the fans, because the fan base is so diverse in its opinions of what a good Sonic title is. And I think it's the same with COD. Like, they don't know what they want anymore.
But again, as I say, that's something that could be generalised to every single game and every single fan base.
It could.
Where you're chatting shit about like GTA and stuff like that, and what you just said, it's something the fan, they have an idea of what fans game, along them lines.
Yeah.
It's something that you're never going to really get away from as a game designer in a game company.
It is something like that, yeah. Well said. I don't know, it feels like COD can't really do anything other than what they're doing now. And I think over the years they've just forgotten how to make the old games like the old games. I think that's what they've done. And, World War II is supposed to be... Well, it's supposed to be good, but yeah.
I mean, they say they're going back to the roots with it, and I've seen the trailers and stuff like that, and it does look like a vast improvement on, Infinite Warfare, but then again, it's not that hard of a thing to achieve.
Yeah, it doesn't seem so difficult, and yet it's coming from the same company that made them in the first place. I'd understand if it was like a second developer, or just someone who took over the company and doesn't know what they're doing with it. But to be honest, there's no real excuse for getting it wrong, because they made the original games anyway, so they should hopefully know what they're doing.
Yeah.
And the whole thing with Infinite Warfare, that only came about, and this isn't just me dissing the fans, this is me dissing the company as well. I think that only came about because fans got bored of like the old CODs. They got bored of them
Yeah.
and they wanted something new. But when they got something new, it went completely wrong. So
Yeah.
it's not just the company's fault in that respect, but it's the company's fault for continuing something that fans don't like, realistically.
It needs a huge change
I
to be
think it
able to
just
like
needs to...
restore it to its former
It
roots.
needs to start all over again, to be honest. I think if they
No,
actually
moving on.
started from... Well, go on. Go ahead.
No, continue because I'm going to change subjects after this.
Oh well. Yeah, they just need to start again with the entire franchise because it doesn't feel like it's going anywhere right now. And I hopefully World War II will be good, but if it isn't, I do hope that they would just stop making CODs altogether because they clearly can't do it right if this is, the case.
Yeah. Now, well, I say I'm changing the subject, not so much. You look at last year, Battlefield 1
Yeah, I played that. Yeah.
and Infinite Warfare were
Yeah.
released pretty much the same time.
Hmm.
Now, obviously, you had people jumping on the Battlefield bandwagon saying, "Oh, COD shit, so I'm going to get this year." And I feel the main reason for that, stepping aside from the fact that Infinite Warfare were diabolical as a game,
Yeah.
you look more at the fact that, like, Battlefield don't release a game a year.
Well, yeah, I think they do actually.
I don't think they do, because I don't think there's one being released this year. I don't think... Did they release one in between Battlefield 4 and Battlefield 1? Not sure. Oh, I think they did Hardline. I think that
Hardline.
came in between. I'm not sure about that. But then again, that's one that no one really thinks of as one of the main releases of the franchise. So you look at the quality of the games, and I feel that's partly down to the fact that EA have more time to work on Battlefield than Activision have time to work on COD.
Yeah.
And they seem to spend a lot more time on the games. And you look at what COD keep doing, they keep going to the stereotypical image of war,
Yeah.
just going to an area and just shooting the place up. Whereas Battlefield 1 looks back to World War 1, which was something that was, few and far between if you wanted World War 1 games, which I think that added the appeal of something, something I'd say original, because they did it like no one has before.
They took a risk with that, and the risk paid off.
It did pay off, because I mean, World War 1, as I say, it's something that's not really been done before, and it's new waters for anyone that tries it, and for them to be able to pull it off on like a first attempt as they did, it were really well done.
They did it really well as well, because I felt that the campaign for Battlefield 1 was absolutely fantastic. It was short-lived, but I think it did a good enough job covering the different aspects of World War 1. Like me and you, because we're from England, we think of in the trenches of the Somme, but in actual fact,
Yeah.
it happened pretty much all over the world, like in the desert, and I learned a lot about just how many like fields and scopes that World War 1 comes under, and a lot about the technology, and it just tells a story. Like COD would never dare touch World War 1. I don't think they would try it, because if they did, something would definitely go wrong there.
Yeah, they find a way to make a mockery of World War 1.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that COD's done that doesn't feel right, but they've stayed throughout the series. Like zombies came in World at War, and it was just like an add-on thing. It wasn't like a big deal, and that took off.
Thing is, with zombies, over the last couple of years, it's sort of become a bit of a letdown. You know what I
Yeah.
mean?
It
Black
feels
Ops
like...
3 Zombies, I mean, we used to play Black Ops 3 Zombies.
Yeah, we did.
It's not bad, but I mean, you look at like Infinite War Zombies and then Advanced Warfare Zombies,
It's just the
compared
thing...
to other releases, it's just a bit underwhelming,
It's
is a
just
better way to
when
put it.
when they get a winning formula like zombies, they stick to it, and they don't ever try anything different with it. They just keep on running with it. I think if they actually, tried something different with it, then maybe, just maybe, it might be justified. But somehow, I just think it isn't. Not anymore. Maybe ages ago it used to be justified because it was a fresh thing and it worked, and it was just the thing. I never played World at War until I got Black Ops 1, and I just like World at War much better because I don't know, the old CODs were definitely a lot better to me. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah. I
They
mean, of
felt...
course, when you first release a game and the early releases of a game, it's going to be much better than the later ones because that's like the original thing. Again, could go back to GTA on this one and say the early ones are better because of the, how do I word this? Like, it's just got this classic feel and a classic arcade kind of look to it compared to the modern ones, which are much more realistic and graphically pleasing. If you know what I mean.
I see GTA as something that has evolved, and it's evolved fairly well up until this point, because 3 came out in like 2001. It was the very first 3D GTA, and it just rewrote the series from there. So I
Yeah.
think 3, and even 4, for example, that was the first one on the, well, newer generation, shall we say, PS3, and it just felt like it was more of a evolution than 5 was, because 5 didn't really try anything that new. I think it just tried too hard to be multiple things that it just wasn't.
Yeah, I mean, it.
It's a weird...
As you say, they're trying to take on more of a theatrical thing with the game, theatrical feel with the game.
Yeah.
And while at the start it went well to an extent, it's slowly become old.
Yeah.
It's an act now that really no one gives a shit about.
It's become, shall we say, needy. It's as if they're looking for new fans that just aren't there in many ways.
Yeah.
They're trying to appeal to, like I say, like it's very over the top, and don't get me wrong, they've always been over the top with things, but like this one took it to a different extreme altogether. It took it to uncomfortable levels of extremity, and it really it pushed the note that basically they're not messing around anymore. They're trying to look for a new identity, and they just haven't found one, and I don't think they need to find one.
No, I mean the games. I mean, we go back to GTA 4. It was, compared to GTA 5, a well-rounded game and somewhat perfect for the franchise. And there must come a point where like Rockstar just turn around and think, maybe we've pushed this as far as it can go.
Yeah,
maybe we're not going to get much else out of it.
I felt that 5 was tacked on, to say the least.
I mean, you had, following GTA 4, you had the Battle of the Gay Tony and Lost and Damned. I wasn't really a fan of them because I expected more from it. I expected a few more locations.
Yeah.
But it's, GTA 5 could do with something like that. Instead of updating online, maybe release a content update or a new game to go along with it.
To be honest, it's not so much GTA 5 itself, but it's online that's the problem, because online isn't really, it's not the game, is it? GTA 5, the actual game, is like story mode, and when you think about it, it could have been so much more. Like, the story could have kept us invested for more than, well, a month, because I played through the game, and I finished it. I took my time with it, and I finished it in about a month. And after that, I just didn't feel like I should play it anymore.
I mean, that were a problem with the game, with the story, with the campaign on the game as well. The fact that you could skip a mission if you failed it multiple times.
Yeah.
Now, it helped me because I completed the game, but with that, you know, you're just going to get through it in no time, and it's really pointless because it wastes your money because you buy it, really. Not, you know, if you like us when we first get the game, you buy it for the story mode and then you move on to online. And if you're going to buy it for the story mode, but you can just skip missions that you're bad at, it kind of defeats the entire object of the story mode itself.
It just tries too hard to me to be something it isn't, and I think that if they just kept the series going as the way it was, then maybe it could have been something much better. They've explored a lot of things with online. I'm not saying that online's entirely bad, but it's not the game. It's more of an add-on thing that just turned into something much bigger.
Yeah.
And
okay, so is there anything else? There's GTA 6. While we're on the concept, you know, the topic of GTA.
See, the thing is, though,
so many things about that.
There's so many things to do with GTA 6. Like, there's so many things, so many different directions they could take, and there's a lot of them which I wish they wouldn't. I wish they didn't have. I wish it didn't continue the formula from 5 and just surprised us. Really, I think that's the term I'm going to use.
Yeah. I feel with GTA 6, if and when they release it, they need to focus. I mean, yeah, you can make it more aesthetically pleasing and update the graphics, but I feel they need to focus more on the gameplay side of it than the way it looks.
Yeah, the gameplay is undoubtedly the most important thing in the game, I think.
Yeah, I always, you know, think about, you know, if a game looks good and it has okay gameplay, then fair enough. And I mean, I suppose that's with GTA 5, but it lacks depth. Again, with the story and, you know, the now lackluster online. They just keep releasing adversary modes and stuff like that. Pardon me. That's something that they really need to work on for the next game.
I think it would be better if they didn't release online until a year later, because then they could focus all their attention on the story and, you know, get it up to standards again.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, I'm not saying things like 3 and Vice City, the stories weren't perfect, don't get me wrong, but they weren't exactly. It's not as if they didn't try with them, and they definitely didn't try with 5. I think they just pushed the envelope too far with 3 characters, and they didn't develop them good enough. I mean, there's nothing really that wrong with the characters that I find. I think in the right situation they could have all been put to better uses.
I mean, you know, they brought Franklin in as like, these guys will get off the topic of GTA at one point today.
Yeah.
They brought Franklin in as like Michael's protege.
Yeah.
You know, he's sort of like mentee.
Yeah, Franklin was a blank slate.
Yeah, I feel that's sort of like, you know, in the later stages it could have played more of a part in Franklin's character. However, after like, you know, halfway through, say like after the jewelry store heist, it just sort of like went away and no one gave a shit again.
It did sort of. It lost its momentum.
Yeah.
I don't see why Rockstar included well, Franklin, because I think they were trying to emulate CJ in a way, but they did it completely wrong. Like, CJ, unlike Franklin, was his own person, and had a story based completely around him, whereas Franklin is just kind of like the blank slate that everyone else builds upon, and he relies so much on the other characters to actually have an identity.
I
And
mean, this might just be me,
yeah,
while we're on the topic of Franklin as well. I remember Franklin less for being a character and more so just because he had a bloody dog.
yeah, that is an
He had a
issue.
dog, and that added something quite interesting, and it was a really good concept. And I feel maybe if they do it for online or story mode, they should add little things like that into the game where you can purchase things, maybe add a bit of depth, like where you can get a job or, like I've always wanted to play as like a copper on GTA, but the only way I can do that is by going on to director mode and doing it that way. But there's jack shit to do, you know what I mean? Like you can do taxi driver jobs and stuff like that.
They didn't develop it enough, to say the least.
Yeah.
It's. I think online is so full of itself that it doesn't realise that how bland it is compared to what it could have been.
I mean, it wasn't a shit start for an online campaign sort of thing.
No, by a
There's
long
still
shot.
so much they could do with it.
There's a lot of things. It doesn't feel like it should, to be honest.
No.
Story definitely feels different to online, and that's mainly the biggest problem.
I mean, they released it so that it was more of a free kind of experience with the game.
But they didn't
So you weren't
realise.
confined to the storyline.
But at the same time, you are kind of confined to it because you're confined to online, basically.
Exactly.
And online is literally the only thing people play now. Well,
Yeah, they dropped the ball quite a lot with GTA 5, to be fair.
whilst we're on the subject of online, I just wanted to say that, for starters, there's lots of YouTubers who make money off of GTA Online, and I think that, in a way, Rockstar should just put an end to that. There's a lot of secrets that they keep hidden, and it's working to, like, some people's benefit.
Yeah.
For example, all these Easter eggs that people just exploit because, they've got nothing better to do anymore. It just doesn't feel right that we should be, well, left
Easter,
in
do you mean Easter eggs or cheats?
the lack of cheats, to be honest. There is a lack of cheats, and that's not such a bad thing, but there's just a lack of any realistic sort of depth with the game. It could have taken a different turn. If online wasn't a thing, I don't think the game would feel as restricted as it does.
Yeah.
Yeah, because online is it's just a single concept that's the same all the way around. There's no difference really anymore between. It's just an answer of what could have been, and what could have been would have been so much better.
Than what actually was.
Yes, exactly. I was disappointed with the map.
See, I don't mind the map. I mean, coming off of its like, let's say because of the location, coming off of its predecessor in like San Andreas, it's quite disappointing considering the size. But with it's the graphics again that seems to be the big problem with the map and stuff like that. Because I mean, if you do something like you have a game like that where the map is huge but you want graphics to be immense, it's just going to take up too much space on the game. Storage space. If you get
Speaking
my
of the
point.
map, speaking of the map, the thing that annoyed me most about the map is because they claim it to be so big, and yet when you're actually going around it, it doesn't feel big.
No.
Now, San Andreas, the map was tiny compared to 5, but what really stuck out was the fact that you went to different locations and every single one of them felt different. It didn't feel like old news to you, really.
Yeah.
maybe if they do...
I've still got San Andreas
Yeah,
on my PS4. I don't play it much, but you know, it's
yeah,
the map. It's much more original.
it
Whereas
feels
I feel
more
like
original.
GTA 5 sort of like takes on the trend of a lot of open world games and just goes for the common locations that just look good, and
Five,
it's no like
five
unique
tries to
areas.
emulate the real life Los Angeles. It tries.
Yeah,
And in doing that, they've
it
lost the charm of what was
it does
originally.
well in doing that.
He does
I'll
well, yeah,
admit,
but it does
but
it
as you
too
say, yeah,
much.
it's lost its charm. It's like it's trying to cash in on the obvious, like
Yeah,
you know, it's can't really explain it.
it's hard to
But
explain
yeah,
if you haven't played the game, but, well,
yeah.
to anyone who hasn't played it, it's very hard to explain.
Future games that could be released. Now, this is something I've been thinking about. Watch Dogs.
Yeah, what
Now,
about it?
I don't think you've ever played any of Watch Dogs, have you? None of
No,
the first
and
or second.
after
Now,
one, I can, yeah, go on.
I've never played the first one, so I'm just going to put that out there. I've never played the first one, and I went straight in with the second because I liked the look of it, and I liked the concept. You know, I didn't really know much about the first one, and I actually did a video about the second one. You know, whether it was a dead game, whether people still played it, whether people still gave a shit, and honestly, I didn't speak about any of that. But this, like, I don't know if you've seen any videos on YouTube, but coming off the first, it was a huge disappointment
I
because
mean, the
I know
first,
people expected more from it.
I'm gonna say the first was bad for the sheer purpose of, well, it was people were expecting obviously more than the first, so obviously the first one had to be not that good, but
Yeah,
at the same time, I don't know, people's expectations have sort of taken over, to be honest, and they've kind of tried to shape the way games are, but at the same time, they don't do that good of a job of it. They don't try and shape the next game. All they say is, oh well, we want it to be better, but they don't say how better. They don't specify what they want to change. I think it's people's lack of specificity or whatever.
yeah.
Yeah, that being
That thing.
specific, people not being specific enough about what they want to change, it just ruins the industry in general because it makes everyone think like, well,
It's
if
more, you know, if you're not gonna care enough about the game to actually tell us what's going on, then end of the day. Oh well, no, it's like not really that, but it's more so if we don't know what's going to be in the game, then we're not going to buy it.
yeah, that is very true.
It's like obviously, you know, everyone knows I like playing wrestling games and stuff like that, and I see people on Facebook saying, oh, you know, if you're not going to release gameplay, I'm not going to pre-order it. I'm like, fair enough, but at the end of the day, you know, it's going to be exact same as last year, but you're going to buy it because it's the only one that you can get.
Yeah, it's really, yeah, same problem with GTA and COD and FIFA,
On FIFA.
because you have
Yeah,
to wait a year, and that doesn't seem like a long time. But at the same time, you don't have any other options for 1 year, to be honest.
yeah.
And
I mean, obviously, go on, proceed.
well, there's not very much competition really between
No.
franchises, because there's either one that everyone loves or there's an underdog who tries to not really copy them, but to cash in on the success. And
I mean, to an extent, you could use Friday the 13th, the game, as an example of that. It takes a Friday the 13th name and tries to, you know, it's sort of an open world game because you've got the entire map to roam around. And, you know, it was a crowd-funded game. So for that, I've, you know, given it leeway for its little problems that it has. I've said, you know what, it's crowd-funded, can't really say much fairer than that. It's not a bad game. But there's still a long way to go for it to become a great game, if you know what I mean.
yeah, there's a lot of development that's needed in the industry. I think a lot of people don't realise that, you know, bad games could be good if only they just push for them to be developed more, but because people sort of give up on that and say, well,
Yeah.
it's how it is and they're not going to change it. Well, sometimes companies can often go back and, well, develop it more. I mean, not just like bug fixes, but changing the game and shaping it over a long period of time. For example, the developers of Hitman, Square Enix, they're adding
Yeah.
like different seasons and like episodes as the game progresses. So even though you didn't get the full game to begin with, they're still working on it. And I think that long projects like that are good because they actually do listen to people's feedback and, from people who've tested it. And it's not just bug fixes, it's more development, well, overall, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, Square Enix, they also did Just Cause 3.
Oh yeah, they did, yeah.
Just Cause, that was free last month. Or is it this month? It's free? Is it? I think it's this month.
Mhm.
Um, on the PlayStation Store, it's either this month or last month, one of the two.
Yeah.
And I got the game not long after it came out. I spent 45 quid on it.
Mhm.
And I actually really enjoyed it. But after a while, you go in, you liberate some bases, you complete some missions, and that's basically all you do for the entire game. The map is astronomically huge. It's ginormous.
It's brilliant. I think it's brilliant.
It's a fantastic map, I'll admit. They really got that right. But something, that you notice with it. So it's obviously got the lack of online, which is a huge problem.
Yeah.
You can't get online unless you use
What?
mods. And I've seen the mods and they're absolutely terrible.
Yeah. And we can't get it.
Obviously that's on PC anyway, so yeah. And, it was a good game. It had the odd few bugs and glitches. But again, it's got a long way to go before it's a great game.
Yeah. There's a lot of issues that people on console run into that people on PC just don't. And
Yeah.
people on PC can literally shape their own games if they know what they're doing. But at the same time, well, us on console, we get what we're given, and we don't really have much of a choice in what we're getting, do we?
No, not really. And I see something that irritates me about gamers is, you get the arguments between which is better, PC, Xbox or PS4, console or PC. And, while that's always going to be an ongoing conversation that people have, and I'm one that actually has them conversations with people at college and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, you get people who are on PC and they just shit all over console. Oh, well, PC's so much better. I'm like, yeah, you can say that, but, then you'll say, oh, have you ever owned a PS3 or Xbox 360, PS4 or Xbox One? Oh, no. Well, you don't know. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
People, just before Xbox One and PS4 came out, there was all this stuff about being able to record from your PS4 and all this lot. And there's people on Xbox like, oh, you can do that on Xbox One. I'm like, you can, but it's a hell of a lot harder to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, you need to.
The thing
It's
is,
it's a problem that you're always going to get.
to be honest, in terms of choices in gaming, there's a lot of choices that you can go down. Even though there's only like 3 main platforms, like there's Sony with the PlayStation, Microsoft with the Xbox, and PC with just PC. And also Nintendo isn't really a player anymore, to be honest. They've stepped out of the big game and they sort of offered like secondary consoles. Like you'd have like for example, if you had an Xbox One, you might also have a Nintendo system, but you wouldn't play on the Nintendo system primarily. It's not like a main thing.
I've had a lot of Nintendo systems. I've had the original DS, I've had a DS Lite, Wii. That's about it to the first one. I had a lot. But, while I've seen stuff, because I'm thinking of getting a 2DS XL, I've been looking at a lot of reviews of stuff like the Wii U. I don't know what you're doing to this garage, mate. I'm really not on the same page as you.
But in spite of, you know, because Nintendo offer a lot of options, but they never really, they're not a big player anymore, to be honest.
Not anymore, and they haven't been for a long, long time.
I mean, Sega dropped out. Yeah.
They are actually getting with it, if you get my point. Like,
Yeah.
you look at what they're doing with the Switch, they've got a proper, like, online sort of experience where you have to pay for it and you can talk to your mates and stuff like that. And I think that's good, but it's never going to be the, you know, PS4, Xbox One standard.
It's never going to be
I feel
like
there
that.
comes a point for Nintendo where they've got to call it a day. I mean, they've got the eShop now, which of course it replaces Xbox Live's Marketplace and, you know, PlayStation Store.
I mean, I'm going to say something right now. I'm not calling Nintendo bad or anything, but their decision making has been so out of sorts, because they are undoubtedly one of the kings of gaming in general. They've been like that for years, but they don't do anything with that. They don't try and compete, and I think if they actually did compete, we might get better products, and we might actually get another option in the mainstream sort of world of gaming, I guess.
I mean, Nintendo, as you said, are the kings. Have had all these different consoles released, and
Yeah.
since the release of like the DSi, they've sort of like faded into obscurity. Then they tried with the release of the 3DS, which fell flat on its face, and then the release of, you know, the Wii U, which fell flat on its face, and they have really declined in both value and, you know, the number of people that actually respect the company.
Yeah.
I can tell you now, in like 20 years' time or something, you know, you go to a kid, oh, have you ever heard of Nintendo or something like that? They're just gonna laugh at you. You know, they won't have a clue what you're talking about.
I think Nintendo don't take many risks. I don't know, they don't.
In the company's current form, I don't think they can afford to take risks.
Well, they can't afford to take risks. They undoubtedly have more people on game development than any other organisation in the world. But
I don't dispute that, but I mean, at the end of the day, in a world where Nintendo is becoming less popular and less feared as a rival to companies like Microsoft and Sony, I don't feel that they can take risks with the chance that they would backfire, because they could, you know, do what Apple did. They could, you know, like when Apple took the headphone jack out of the iPhone 7, they thought that they were revolutionising everything, but really, they were regressing back to like Nokia bricks.
it was an absolutely stupid idea, that was.
Well, definitely. And I suppose, and what I'm trying to say really is, like, if Microsoft tried something like that, you know, they revolutionised it and added something new or took something away. Like, if they made the first ever console that doesn't play discs and runs off solely downloaded, you know, games, then that would backfire immensely, and they could think that they're revolutionising gaming, or they could think that it's a huge step forward. They could take that risk, but it might not work.
Yeah, it's the same sort of thing with almost every industry, because you get these companies who try to change things up so much so that it loses its identity after a while.
Yeah.
And so far, I mean, Nintendo have done alright. I think that their real market is in sort of handheld titles for kids, basically, people younger than us. That's where their market lies, and I think if they expanded that just a little bit, you know, they could be saved, and you know, they just become.
I mean, there was a time.
Yeah,
there was a time where, like, when DS and PSP had just been released, like, the DS was outselling the PSP, and to be fair, I think it still is to this day. People buy more DSs than they are Sony handheld for, like, the PS Vita and etc.
I've never wanted a PSP. I've got to say that.
I've had a fair bit. It's a decent game. I mean, basically, it's a mini PS3. That's all it is.
Yeah, but
But it's expensive to use to an extent.
it
Like
is.
the games cost probably more than they should. You've got to buy a memory card, which is ridiculous. Which, unlike the original DS, you didn't need to. I mean, the new DSs, the 3DSs, etc. You need to buy a micro SD card or a normal SD card, which to an extent I can understand because of, you know, with the added 3D abilities, it's going to take more storage up on the system. But that's what confuses me. Look, like the old DSs, even back in like 2008 and stuff, like when you had the original, the thick DS, and then the release of the DS Lite. The fact that they didn't need memory cards or external storage shows how, you know, gaming as a whole, well, I won't say as a whole, but gaming may be moving backwards in terms of, you know, quality and console-wise when it comes to handhelds.
Yeah.
And yeah, and you get games on phones are becoming a lot more popular.
Yeah, they are.
You find a lot more people and like laptops, you know, gaming laptops and stuff like you got. It's just console gaming personally, I believe in a few years will cease to exist because I feel it's becoming less popular because of the rising prices. People are jumping over to PC, and it's, you know, it's just everything's really having a negative impact on console gaming.
Speaking of, well, negative impacts and ceasing to exist, there's a lot of franchises that have just faded out of existence, to be honest. Spyro, Crash Bandicoot. Crash Bandicoot is only just being relevant again.
Crash Bandicoot, but apparently that's not gone as well as they expected, and kind of fell flat on its face. Not entirely sure about that.
I like the idea of remastering them, but I feel like it's gonna like confuse younger viewers, well, younger audiences that have never actually played the originals, and it might just change the whole thing around. I don't think they're gonna make another Crash game, and
oh no, I'd be extremely surprised if they did.
I'd be surprised, but Naughty Dog, just they sold off the rights to Traveller's Tales, I believe, back in the day, because they only had a contract which allowed them to make like 3 games. No, I think it was 4 games, and you know they made Crash Team Racing, and that was back, well, way back when. And I remember playing Crash 4, Wrath of Cortex, and I liked the game, but it just felt like they were trying so many new things, because it was a different developer, and I guess it didn't sit well with fans. I'm guessing it didn't. I mean, I wasn't too much around that time, but, you know. Spyro the Dragon, that's gone. That's dead now. I doubt they would ever remaster something like that.
Yeah.
I think it would just
let's
be...
move on.
Yeah. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Move on to another game that we tend to play.